Kenny Boyd kept its streak going against crosstown rival North, now 5 in a row with a 42-10 victory as Coach Don Drake joins us now. And Don, like you told us after the game on 97.5 KLAK, you never expect a score like that in the season opener. What did you like most about that performance?
Well, I thought our kids came out pretty focused. You know, I was real proud of our defense. I thought we played extremely well all night. You know, we turned the football over on our first possession offensively, gave them a short field and some momentum, and they obviously were able to drive down, get in scoring territory. And I was real proud of the way that we kept them out of the end zone. You know, we forced a field goal, so we put ourselves in a bad position there, but our defense rose up, and I was real proud of that because it would be real easy in that scenario to bend and give them the touchdown and them come away with 7, but we held them to 3, and I thought that was pretty critical. So I was real proud of that. I thought our effort was really good. You know, I thought our kids maintained focus throughout the entire ball game, which was very important. And it's kind of like we talked last week. I mean, this is kind of a catch game for us in terms of, you know, we're expected to win. They're the underdog. They can kind of play the underdog role. And you know, as kids, if you lose sight of the fact that you got to go out and perform well, I mean, it's real easy to find yourself in a position where you may not come out on top. So I was proud of that. All week they maintained focus, and I thought they played well on Friday.
1-0 with that 42-10 win. Let's check out some of the highlights. Friday at Ron Post Stadium, just visiting with Mike Fetchie just a moment ago, seeing things from the north end. Now from the victor's end is Boyd, like you mentioned, the tough start, but it was not a tough start for Brian Driscoll. He was hot from the very beginning.
Yeah, and Brian's an exceptional talent, you know, as we're all aware, and you just saw a nice run by him there. You know, great play up front by our defensive line, which I've said before that, you know, we expect some great things out of those guys. It was a great job by Tanner Larson right there, knocking that pass down. A good job there of Robert Norn, who's a sophomore corner coming in for his first varsity start, makes a great play down there on the goal line for us.
And again, forcing that field goal to start following the Russell Williams interception. You're able to pound it on the ground with Driscoll throughout that first half. Driscoll racking up 23 carries, well over 100 yards by intermission.
Yeah, and it's real important. That's a big part of our game, obviously. And, you know, we've got to get Brian in game shape, and I thought he handled it pretty well the other night, carrying the football as many times as he did that early in the season.
How about the scramble by Russell Williams, your starter?
Yeah, it was nice to see. You know, I think nobody expects us to really have a running quarterback this year, but it was nice to see him tuck the ball down a couple of times the other night and get some nice yardage.
Driscoll finding the end zone for the first time in 2011. He would have many more visits on this night. Again, your defense, it starts up front, really, doesn't it?
Sure it does. You've got to control the line of scrimmage, which I thought we did a good job of, and we've got a lot of guys running to the football, which is something that we emphasize on a daily basis, and I thought we did a pretty good job of that the other night.
And you were always able to wrap up in the short passing game of North. That was working for North early on, but you limited their gains.
Yeah, it's important. You got to be great open field tacklers, you know. So for us in the secondary, those guys got to be able to square up and put their face on people and bring them down.
You put the punt here. Cameron DeSalle, he was an all-district punter last year. He looked like an all-state punter for you on Friday night. He averaged 55 yards on 3 punts.
Yeah, he did a great job, and that's a weapon for us to be able to change the field position.
Dalen Markham nearly coming up with an interception. You made North punt once again. Brian Driscoll off to the races, and while North surrounds him with 11 people, Driscoll just continues to move the pile. It reminded me of the run against South Garland a year ago.
Yeah, I thought for a second there he was going to squeak out and get to the end zone.
Well, Driscoll finally does right there up the middle, his second score of the night. He would end up with a career-high 5. And, Don, you were saying after the game, you didn't realize he had 5 until right after.
Yeah, I really didn't because, you know, I don't ever keep totals of how
Sure.
many touchdowns kids have scored throughout the game. And so when somebody said he had 5 touchdowns, I was like, wow. I mean, I guess that's the case, but it just didn't hit me during the course of the game.
We see that first turnover, Benjamin Boucher, the fumble recovery. Driscoll punches it in. Late in the half, your team was able to pull away. You forced a couple of North turnovers. Here's the second one. Jay Humphrey able to pounce on top of it, and you put it in the end zone once again, really put the game out of reach.
Yeah, I think that was the difference in the first half is they turned the football over, gave us a short field. We were able to capitalize on that, score points, and pull away from them. And You know, I was real happy to see our defense create some turnovers, which was so crucial to our success last year.
Yeah, you forced 30 turnovers last year, a great turnover ratio of plus 13, a hallmark of last year's club for sure. Driscoll, with 4 touchdowns in that first half, you kept the defensive intensity in the second half to close things out. Again, Chris Stanton making nice plays on the ball.
Yeah, you know, Chris was pretty nervous. Obviously, we all noticed that in the opening kickoff, but I thought in the second half he really settled down, broke on the ball really well, as you just saw in that last highlight. I was real proud of his performance.
North known for its running game, but it was tough sledding all night against your defense. Again, you were able to supply some pressure and chase the slot man, Randy Monsier, right here. You didn't let up. You went up 35-3. Eventually, North did put it in the end zone, 35-10. But your offense was still cranking up with that short passing game.
Yeah, and it was great to see us be able to move the ball through the air. We didn't throw it that many times, but I thought we were fairly effective in what we did do.
Ladd was 5 of 8 for 43 yards. Curtis Ladd, the sophomore. Russell Williams, 3 of 4 for 75 yards. And we saw Tyler Phelps, the senior, late in the game. We saw Brian Driscoll's 5th touchdown run just a moment ago. And again, Trey Smith just not being able to find much room to run because Jackson Dennis really led things up front, in addition to Jamal Palmer, the Baylor commit.
Yeah, Jackson, I thought, had a great game, you know, and that's something that we're going to need out of him on a week-to-week basis. I mean, those front 3 are so critical to our success and being able to stop the run and pressure the passer. What a great run by Calvin Howard. You know, he's our backup running back. We put him in there in the second half, gave him some carries, and he took that one 60, I believe, to score the touchdown.
You like him a lot as your number 2 back. We just didn't see him all that much. You were riding the hot hand with Brian Driscoll, and Howard ends up with 8 carries for 77 yards, including that 60-yard run, and he showed some breakaway speed there, able to go the distance.
Yeah, he did, you know, and he had a great scrimmage against Lake Dallas as well, and obviously Brian carried the ball a lot of times for us the other night, but we've got to get him into that game shape to where he can touch the ball 25, 30 times a game. But I do feel like Calvin is coming on, and he's going to be one of those guys that we can go in there and help carry some of that burden from Brian.
Driscoll, 29 carries for 167 yards in 5 touchdowns. So this quarterback competition, meanwhile, it continues. Russell Williams, Curtis Ladd, and Tyler Phelps as well, the senior. And much like that scrimmage against Lake Dallas before this past Friday night, I'm sure you're saying to yourself, all 3 guys did something well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they all, I thought, managed the game pretty well, played pretty composed, did some good things, you know, and so it'll be interesting. It's kind of like I said after the ball game that, you know, we've got to use our non-district schedule as an evaluation period as well, you know, and so we'll get some kids some snaps. We may end up alternating who starts just to see how they handle that aspect of it, you know, but those will be a week-to-week decision until we get into district play, and I would anticipate by that time that we will know who will be our go-to guy, you know, not to say that the others won't play, but I feel like we've got to have one individual that we know we're going to hang our hat on.
Non-district continues Friday night at Ron Post Stadium as you take on Cody Vanderford's Flower Mound Jaguars. This is a team that you saw a year ago at this time. Came up short 40-28 at their place. And of course, Vanderford's team's always known for their offenses, and it seems like he has another one. They lost their opener 42-41 to Jesuit.
Yeah, it was a shootout, no doubt, and they do a great job of moving the football. I mean, they are so explosive. They throw the football, I think, about 75% of the time. So there's always an opportunity on every play for them to create a big play on the offensive end. So for us defensively, we've got to be able to find ways to pressure their new quarterback. Obviously, we've got to be able to cover in the secondary and limit the number of big plays that they have and force them to have to effectively move the football down the field in small chunks of yardage. You know, we can't give up big plays like they had the other night against Jesuit. I think they had one receiver who had like 5 or 6 catches for 300 yards, I think. So, you know, you can't, you're going to have a hard time being successful if you're doing that. And so we've got to limit those opportunities.
Yeah, referring to Chase Taylor, meanwhile, you mentioned the new quarterback, Marshall Williams. He was a receiver last year. Flower Mound had to replace its quarterback, Paul Millard, threw for nearly 4,500 yards. Their running back, Hunter Lee, who was also their leading receiver a year ago. You saw all those players last year. What was your impression of Williams at quarterback? He threw for 505 yards against Jesuit.
Yeah, I thought he did very well. The guy throws a great ball, you know. He sits in the pocket well, delivers the ball on time. Obviously, it's very, very accurate. So I was pretty impressed with the kid coming out in his first varsity start himself and how he's able to perform the other night.
in addition to making sure that they don't break big plays, I'm sure it's important for your team to keep it on the ground and control the clock a little bit against that high-octane
Sure.
offense.
I mean, one of the best things you can do against that kind of offense is to keep them on the sideline and frustrate them by not giving them the football. So we've got to do a great job offensively on our side of eating some clock, you know, having some time-consuming drives. You know, the other night I think our first touchdown drive was 11 plays. You know, so those are positive things on the offensive end, especially when you're facing somebody like Flower Mound who's so explosive on their offensive side.
Don, good luck this week. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, man.
Don Drake, head coach of the Boyd Broncos. Look for all the playmakers on the field. There will be several of them Friday night at Ron Post Stadium. McKinney Boyd and Flower Mound, 7:30 kickoff.